Welcome to the Lippis Report.
Hello everyone, I'm Nick Lippis, and with me is Jeff Cox from Avaya. How you doing, Jeff?
Hi Nick, how are you?
I'm excellent, great. Thanks again for being with me. In this segment, very important, we're going to be demonstrating automated provisioning of network devices as new virtual machines are added, moved, and deleted, showing the synergy between the virtualized compute and the virtualized networking environment. So first I want to ask Jeff to give us a little bit of background as to how Avaya basically manages the whole VM motion component within their VENA architecture. So Jeff?
Great, thanks Nick. For this demonstration, we are going to be showing the Avaya Virtual Provisioning Service. This is a management tool that integrates into VMware's vCenter in order to give an end-to-end view of the virtualized data center, including VMs, physical hosts, and network devices across both physical and virtual environments. The tool provisions network devices in reaction to VM lifecycle changes, from activation to mobility to deletion. It applies connectivity services and port profiles to edge devices on demand as VMs are activated, deactivated, and moved. We are now going to see this tool in action to see how it simplifies vMotion within the virtualized data center.
Hello everyone and welcome back. I am really excited for this segment. We're going to be showing you what it takes, or how little it takes really, for a VM to be created and to join into a VSP network, and then also how easy it is to move that VM within that network, and then also how easy it is to remove it. Now the key thing I also want you to keep in mind as we're going through this process is that if this was a kind of traditional network, there would be a lot of network configuration that would be required on a port-by-port basis. So keep that in mind as we're going through that. So first I want to introduce you to Elmer Balino from Avaya. Elmer, say hello to everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Elmer Balino. I represent Avaya, or I work for Avaya, and part of my job is basically looking at the virtualization network from a management standpoint, and that's what we'll be talking about today, is the virtualization provisioning part of the networking for Avaya.
Great, excellent Elmer. So I want us to start with firing up a VM or establishing a virtual machine. So let's start with that. We have two screens here. This screen over here basically provides a shot into vCenter, and then this is into VPS, which is Avaya's virtual provisioning system software. So we have the network side, physical and logical networking side, and then we have the virtualized domain side of the equation here. Okay?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what we have. And to the left screen, or the screen closer to you, is what we have is vCenter, part of VMware's administration part of it. And what we have is a description or a detailed, if you could see that, of our two different hosts that we're connected to. We have our uplink here, which is showing one of the servers, and this is our uplink that will be connected to one of the VSP 7000s, and we'll show that in a minute. And again, there's a second server here. This would be the virtualized side, or vCenter administration. And on our Avaya side, there's COM. This is our communication, our configuration orchestration manager. This gives us a physical view or physical layout of the devices that we have connected to VMware vCenter.
Yeah. So it's important to note, over here, so it shows you three switches. The two on the far right-hand side are the VPS 7000s, which are the top-of-rack switches that we've been testing over at iSimCity. We have two physical servers that are connected into each one of those 7000s as well. And the one switch to the far left is really a management system that we're using during this demonstration as well. Okay, Elmer?
So we've seen basically COM that gives us a physical topology of these devices, and the feature that we'll be showing is the application that rides on COM. This is called the Virtualization Provisioning Service. And essentially what this application does is provision automatically the devices that we're connected to, that we showed earlier on that topology, which are the VSP 7000. For the first thing, I'll just give you a brief roadmap of what we have. The dashboard of the VSP will give us our server information, which shows us the exact EXI host that we have.
Which is this table set over here.
Okay. And on the very top, And if you go across the whole table, you can't quite see it, but it will show the virtual machines that we have and the EXI host that's on the virtual vCenter portion of it that we're going to be running our creation of a virtual machine, migration, and also we'll end it with a deletion. And then we'll go through basically VPS and how it looks, monitors, and sets the profiles in this configuration. So let's start off with vCenter. And
So we're going to be on this side over here. So when a virtual machine gets fired up, the network side of it is going to discover that it's there. It's also going to assign a VLAN to it. It's also going to assign an IP address to it and join it into the fabric.
Okay. In this case, basic administration, what we'll do is just select a host that we have, and with a simple right click, we'll be creating a new virtual machine. Let's see, excuse me, that's right here.
Okay.
We'll just create one, we'll just go through. We'll just give it a simple name as new machine. We'll pick up the data center. This is what vCenter will be labeled. We'll use our storage, which is selected. We'll just pick up our common data storage that we do. And let's see, we'll just keep it as a regular Windows server. Doesn't matter. And then we'll select the switch in which we want to create it. In this case, our uplink, which is a VNIC 0 or switch 0, excuse me, switch 1, which assign that. And do a creation. There's going to be a progress bar on vCenter. It was pretty quick, just a blink of an eye.
Yep.
And we should see that created here, which is going to be on VX to the right. It's a new machine up at the top. And what VPS does is that we're going to,
So now we're going to shift over here.
what we'll look, and I'm just going to update our monitor screen. It's really difficult to see. There's all it does is applies all our different profiles that we have. Just maximize this. And one of the 3 steps that it goes through when it's creating a virtual machine is that it first looks at establishing a spanning tree group. It checks and it makes sure that the spanning tree group is actually set. It associates a VLAN. In this case, we wanted a VLAN of 1100 created. That gets created and it gets assigned to the port group. Then it updates our VLAN properties on the port itself. So that's done.
So also remember, there was no manual configuration to make this happen. Also the spanning tree component of that, that's between server and also the top of rack switch. That's not in the core of the fabric network. There's no spanning tree into the core of the network. Okay.
Yep.
Sir?
Okay, so we've seen that our rules have been pretty much set. We have on the very top the server information that we showed earlier. This gives us a description of the resident virtual machines. If I refresh, and what we'll see is the creation itself. So this will tell us we have a new VMware called VM Test Machine.
Yep.
And what we'll also see is that there's a switch IP that's been associated to it, and also a port that also has been associated to that. So there's nothing for anyone else to do. So it's automatically provisioning. It's identified the port and also the VLAN that's been assigned to, which would be the 1100. That gets set on the profile that we've set here. So that would be just the creation of it. Again, VPS, what it does is it monitors vCenter. It looks for the life cycle of all the different events. In this case, it's a VM create. Next, what we'll do is we'll perform a migration. In case of the vCenter, what we're doing is that we're going to use vMotion, in which we're migrating one particular virtual machine from one host to another. In case of any type of maintenance that needs to be done, we have high availability, which is used when we need to make changes from one host server to another. If for any reason any of these servers go down, it automatically moves all those virtual machines to another.
without operator intervention.
Right.
So very important. Okay, great. So let's do a vMotion and see how this works. Now, also, go ahead, Elmer, you can go ahead and do that while I'm starting to talk. What was interesting, remember when I first showed you, there were 2 switches. These switches can be of arbitrary complexity. There could be, 500 switches behind them, and the process will be the same. There is an auto discovery component where VPS actually looks to see what's happening in terms of the virtual machine domain, and then it'll auto-configure. Once it discovers a new virtual machine, it'll store that port profile, and then when there is a move, it's going to automatically move it to wherever it's going to move it to the network without operator intervention. So let's see how that piece of it works.
Okay, so what we did just now is we did a vMotion or a migration for the newly created virtual machine that we have. In this case, would be new VM machine. That's already been done on the vCenter itself in the virtual world. If we look back to the right, VPS will monitor. It's shown that there was a profile that was changed here. And this will describe basically all the different steps. Oops, excuse me. Let's back it up. Okay. Again, when it moves from one switch to the other, it'll check the other switch, make sure that we have our spanning tree that it has been set. It'll apply our traffic profile, make sure that our VLAN 1100 is set for that particular machine, and then update the VLAN properties. Secondly, we can confirm that through the server information page. Originally on the server 1, where we had that newly created machine, which is VM test motion, we'll update or refresh. We notice that it's now gone. So what has happened is that VPS has essentially just removed it from that particular port, from that particular device. You no longer see it in that host server. And if we scroll down a bit, we look at our second server after that refresh, and we'll notice that the new machine is now resident to the second host.
Yeah.
And we'll also see that we've created a new VLAN, and that for that particular uplink, VNIC 0, we're now assigning a brand new switch, which would be the secondary switch, which is 12. It originally was in 17, now we have a new VSP switch that has been assigned to.
Great.
And the port number as well too. So that would be complete the migration of that virtual machine.
So let's now do the delete component of this as well. So we already created, we moved, now let's delete.
Okay, so right now, we notice that after our migration, we wind up on our second host server, which is our VM new machine. And what we'll do is we'll just perform a deletion here. We'll just delete that from the inventory. Let's say yes to our little prompt. And we notice that it has been completed. If we look back at VMware, we no longer, if you notice here, that virtual machine has been deleted. We'll go back to VPS. I'll just scroll this down. We'll run our monitor. We'll have a look at the profile changes. And as the profile says, it'll unapply the traffic profile. In other words, what it has done is it's deleted the port from the VLAN group. It has also removed and updated that VLAN, so there shouldn't be anything else. We'll look up at the server information page. We have a VM new machine. We'll just update that.
And updating is just refreshing.
Refreshing, that is correct, that's all. And then we'll look at the new refreshed information, and our VM new machine has been deleted. Our port switch no longer exists, or the IPs. And that's the deletion of a virtual machine that we've completed.
Well, Elmer, thank you. We did a virtual machine creation. We saw how there was no manual configuration required for the switches to learn, discover, and then create the virtual network to support that virtual machine. Then we moved that virtual machine from one server to another server across 2 7000s. We've shown that that moved seamlessly and the network reconfigured itself without any manual intervention. And then we deleted that virtual machine, and we showed how the network, in essence, cleaned itself up, removed all of the port parameters, the IP addresses, the virtual LAN IDs, and so forth. And so now we basically have a network that is at state that resembles and reflects the reality of the virtual machine environment as well. So without manual intervention as well. So Elmer, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, as you can see, the VPS tool helps coordinate and automate network changes due to virtual server changes. This is a key requirement for a virtualized data center. By ensuring that appropriate connectivity and port profiles are applied and deleted before virtual machines migrate, ensures that moves are transparent to applications and an end user's experience. From an operational point of view, the VPS tool increases synergy between server and networking teams, ensuring that these groups work smarter together by setting up and changing services, plus troubleshooting networking issues. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you gained from the demonstration that we just showed you. Thank you.
That concludes this edition of the Lippis Report. Thank you for joining us. Look for us every Tuesday and Thursday. To get your free subscription to the Lippis Report newsletter, go to www.lippis.com. To sponsor the Lippis Report podcast, send email to sales@lippis.com. We've got to go, and so do you.